We bring you some reaction now to this passing with Judges Matter Research and Advocacy Officer Mbekezeli Benjamin, who is joining us this evening. A very good evening to you. Thank you so much for your time. I mean, we've just learned, quite shocking, of the passing of Justice Mokgoro, who has had an outstanding career in the legal field and civil society. What is your reaction?
Good evening, Paul, and good evening to the viewers. As Judges Matter, we are really sad to learn of Justice Mokgoro's passing. It is a real tragedy for our country. Justice Mokgoro was not only a legal pioneer, but she was a really dedicated South African. She devoted her life, I'm sure up until she was no longer physically able to the betterment of South Africa. So yes, she has many accolades as a founding member of the Constitutional Court, but she also was the first Black woman to be appointed as a judge in South Africa. She was appointed in October of 1994 to the Constitutional Court. The second judge was only appointed to the High Court in 1995. So she was a pioneer in that. That is a remarkable achievement for someone who came from the township of Khalishiwe in Kimberley to rise to the highest level of the legal profession. So it is really sad for us.
Yeah, she's been described by Advocate Thuli Madonsela as a quintessential human rights crusader who contributed enormously to South Africa's transformative constitutional and justice landscape. How would you describe her impact?
Well, her impact is huge. It's huge in the sense that it is things that we can touch, but it's also things that we cannot touch. When we look at things that we can touch, the Sol Plaatje University in Kimberley was founded through the energy of Justice Mokgoro. She was the first chairperson of the Council of Sol Plaatje University, which is the first university in the Northern Cape. She steered that university from the ground up. It is now standing tall as one of our proud institutions through her own efforts. So it is something that we can touch, we can feel with our own hands. But she also contributed in things that we cannot touch in terms of our law. She was one of the first people to really think deeply about the meaning of Ubuntu in the law and trying to infuse that deep African concept into our law and figuring out ways in which it can be part of our constitutional law. She also has, of course, written many judgments that have impacted on people who are quite vulnerable. She's written judgments that have extended social security benefits to people who are not yet documented or are still working on getting their documents so that at least they have a safety net. She also worked very hard to nurture the next generation of lawyers. She was a law professor, so she taught at university, but she also spent a lot of time speaking to younger lawyers. I personally remember she was the guest speaker at our law dinner in our final year at WITS in 2013. And she dedicated that evening. She could have been anywhere else, but she decided that on that Friday evening, she would come and speak to us. And she inspired some of us to pursue a career in human rights. And that was something that for us is a legacy that lives even in our hearts.
Yeah, it's quite important that you touch on her humane legacy because she's highly regarded for essentially fighting for the underdog, the vulnerable, but also just as her accident happened, on the back of that, she'd attended a women lawyers festival of some sort, event which looked back on 100 years of women's admission into legal practice. What legacy do you think she leaves behind in that space insofar as women in legal practice is concerned?
Oh, she leaves a phenomenal legacy. I mentioned that she was a law professor, so she was someone who was interested in ideas. She had 2 master's degrees, one of which was pursued overseas in the United States. And so she never looked at her circumstances. Growing up in a township, she pursued academic achievement at the highest level. And that on its own was an inspiration. But then when she was a justice of the Constitutional Court, she worked very hard to build that institution. The look and feel of the Constitutional Court is the most unique court, not only in South Africa, but in the world. The reason why she worked hard at making that institution feel tangible to ordinary South Africans was because she understood the impact of justice on ordinary people. And even in pushing for women, like you said, she got this tragic accident on the way from an event to celebrate 100 years of women in the law. She retired in 2009. She could very well have decided to sit at home for the rest of her retirement and enjoy time with her family, that she wasn't able to do so. But she decided to sacrifice that time and go out to speak to women lawyers, to encourage women lawyers to pursue their careers at the highest levels, and also to work hard at bringing up the next generation of lawyers. And that is something that I think is a living legacy for all of us, not just for women lawyers.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for weighing in on this matter. Speaking there to Judges Matter Research and Advocacy Officer Mbekezeli Benjamin, really just reflecting on the life of Justice Mokgoro.